All right, so today I want to talk a little bit about Stoicism. Now, if you've been following the channel for a while, you may know that we already have a video on the Stoics. And I just went back and looked at it, and it really wasn't very good. So here I am trying to make up for that. So, what you need to know about Stoicism is that it was a philosophy that began in the Hellenistic period of Greek philosophy. Now, the Hellenistic period is the time between Alexander the Great and basically when the Roman philosophers started to become prominent. So, um, to kind of give you that chronology there, we have Socrates, and then Socrates had Plato as a student. Plato had Aristotle as a student. Aristotle had Alexander the Great as a student. So we're looking a little bit after the time of Plato and Aristotle. Now, that time is very particular because, as we know now, Aristotle and Plato were a pretty big deal. And Platonic philosophy kind of fell off after his death and was sort of a bunch of offshoots came off of Platonic philosophy. And Stoicism is one of those things that used a lot of Plato and Socrates, but certainly couldn't be considered Platonic philosophy in the strictest sense. Now, Stoicism was started by a guy named Zeno, and he was the first Stoic philosopher. In fact, Stoicism, I think, was actually called Zenoism or something like that, but it was changed to Stoicism because they didn't want to kind of attach themselves to a particular philosopher. Now, Stoicism is all about reason. Now, they believe that we can understand the world using our brains, that our minds are actually capable of understanding reality. And that can't be said of all philosophies, so it is important to note that. That's sort of their epistemology, that the world is understandable and that reason works. And now reason works particularly in the field of ethics, ethics being what is right, what is wrong action. Now, you might have a perception of Stoicism that's sort of like, don't get angry, don't let things bother you. When bad things happen, just kind of shirk them off because they don't matter. And that's not really what Stoicism is all about. Stoicism is about using reason and basically attaching reason to circumstances and realizing that once you do that, once you're thinking about things, you're going to react differently than if you're letting your emotions, or the Stoics call them your passions, dictate what's happening. Now, even the word passion needs to be qualified, because when we think of the word passion, we think of someone that's, real passionate, maybe at like a concert or something like that, and, they're into it, they're feeling it. But with the Greeks, the word passion is very particular. It means basically the part of yourself that it feels, that desires, your emotive side. And that comes from Plato. Plato had the tripartite soul, the three parts of the soul: the intellect, which is the brain; the emotions, which are the feelings, maybe your heart; and your appetitive side, which is your belly, the stuff that your body wants. And those three parts are interacting. Mostly the intellect and the heart are warring against the belly. But the Stoics believe that the emotions and the belly should be subservient to the mind, and that the mind is what should be controlling your actions. And once you do that, once you funnel everything through your reason, you realize that there's a whole lot that you can't control. And we see this a lot in the Stoic philosophers. The one that I've studied the most is Epictetus. Basically, he looks at situations and he says, well, can I control this? Is this something that I can influence in any way? If not, then I shouldn't let it bother me, right? So someone can force me into chains and put me in a prison, and I can't really do anything about it. So why let that upset me? Because the most important thing to a Stoic philosopher is virtue, right? So you're no less of a good person, you're no less virtuous when you're shackled in a prison than when you're, lounging on the beach, drinking whatever it is you drink on a beach. So the idea is that we worry about what we can control, and what we can control is our own virtues. What we can control is our goodness and our character. Now, the Stoic virtues are actually taken from Socrates in the Republic. Well, I guess it's Plato in the Republic. The four virtues that Plato brings up in book 4 of the Republic are wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. And these are the four that the Stoics find particularly important. So you ought to be wise, you ought to be courageous, you ought to be just, and you ought to be temperate. And if you are those things, then you will be happy. And that when you're not happy, it's sort of because you're ignorant, right? You don't know what it actually takes to make you happy. Therefore, you fill that space with things like drinking and carousing and slothful lazing about, and maybe the acquisition of wealth, the acquisition of power. All of these things people think will make them happy, but they won't. According to the Stoic, virtue is what makes you happy. And they use a particular word when they're defining that virtue. It's eudaimonia. Now the question is, if someone were to give a Stoic a nice steak, for instance, would the Stoic not eat it? I don't think so. From my understanding, they're totally cool with enjoying things. They just know that those things have their places, and that is not one of the necessities for happiness. A good steak or whatever it might be, nice clothes. And so that is the ethics and the epistemology of Stoicism. There are other elements. They are involved in the physical world, in physics, right? How things are oriented. And ancient physics gets kind of strange. There's a lot of elements and stuff are burning and turning into other things. And you can definitely read up on that pretty easily on Wikipedia or something. And then they're also known for logic. They use categories to determine what sorts of things are what and how they're related to each other. But we're not going to get into that in this video. We're going to stick with what we've got here. If you have any questions about Stoicism, I might be able to answer them. I've read a couple primary sources, but really a lot of it is available online. If you want to do some more reading, it's out there. So good luck. Talk to you next time.